every single dream. I lay each one down at your feet. Every moment I'm out wondering, never changes what you see. I tried to win this war, I confess. My hands are weary, I need your rest. Mighty warrior, king of the fight. No matter what I face, you're by my side. When you don't move the mountains, I'm needing you to move. When you don't part the waters, I wish I could walk through. When you don't give the answers as I cry out to you, I will trust, I will trust, I will trust in you. I will trust in you. Truth is, you know what tomorrow brings. It's not a day ahead you had not seen. So when all things be my life and breath, I want what you and Lord and nothing less. When you don't move the mountains, I'm needing you to move. When you don't part the waters, I wish I could walk through. When you don't give the answers as I cry out to you, I will trust, I will trust, I will trust in you. I will trust in you. You are my strength and comfort. You are my steady hand. You are my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand. Your ways are always higher. Your plans are always good. There's not a place where I go you've not already stood. When you don't move the mountains, I'm needing you to move. When you don't pop the waters, I wish I could walk through. When you
We are 3 weeks away from Easter. Can you believe that? That is crazy. That we are 3 weeks away from celebrating the resurrection of our Savior. We're 3 weeks away from coming together and having a big service and going and doing the whole Easter egg thing and going out and doing, just dinner together with our families and kind of celebrating that holiday. And I was thinking, last week we looked at what happens when we're stuck. And we looked at Peter, that very same moment in time in which Jesus looks at Peter and says, "Who do you say that I am?" And he says, "You're the Christ." And then Peter goes on and he denies Jesus. If you remember what we talked about last week, he went on and he denied Jesus. And then he gets to the point where he's like, "I'm just stuck. I'm just going back to be a fisherman." And Jesus looked at him and he goes, "No, if you are truly who you are, then go fulfill your purpose. Go feed my sheep, tend my lambs, feed my sheep. Be who I've called you to be," right? And it got me kind of thinking, sometimes I'll switch things up. We were supposed to do a whole different thing these next 3 weeks, and it kind of got me thinking that I think we all need to ask a cumulative question as we kind of head into the Easter season. And so for the next 3 weeks, we're going to look at nothing but that question, and that is this. With Jesus looking at us dead in the eye, to the very bottom of our soul, he's asking us a question. Who do you say that I am? That's what Jesus is asking us. That's what I think Easter is kind of all about, right? And here's the only way we can answer that question in our westernized culture, right? Our westernized culture has trained us to answer that question. That's why when we have Emmy Awards and we have Grammy Awards, the first person that people thank is God, although none of their life thanks God at all. And it is like, hey, man, who do you say that I am? Well, of course, our westernized culture has trained us to go, well, you're Jesus. We've read about you. We did the little flannel board things in Bible school about you, and we've done this, and you're Jesus, right? And it's just common knowledge that everybody would say that is Jesus. But here's the question that I think we have to answer that is much bigger. You ready? That if God pulled up a couch, sat down on it, got him a box of popcorn, and started to look at the cinema of your life and my life, what would his answer be? Coming from the actions that are displayed in who we are. And I want to take the next 3 weeks and I want to look, based on our hope, based on our heart, based on our excitement, who would we say that Jesus is? Because here's what I know. Our hopes tell a lot of who Jesus is in our life. Our heart tells a lot of who Jesus is in our life. Our excitement. I was thinking about this, and we're going to talk about this on Easter Sunday, but as you look at Easter Sunday, sometimes we come in and it's just a moment in time, and it's just a means to an end. We got to go through this so that we can get to this, so we can get to this, so we can finally lay our head down at the end of the day and go, whew, Easter's over. And we can miss the whole point of who do you say that I am? Because if we believe that Jesus is who he is, there's no greater day on earth for us as Christians. And so we're going to ask some really hard questions. Who do we, based on our actions, say that Jesus is? If you got your Bibles, do me a favor. I'm going to be in the book of Luke, and we're going to be in chapter 20, and we're going to land in verse 45, okay? And I want to give you a little bit of a background of what's going on, okay? And this is what's happening. We are coming to the witching hour of the crucifixion, okay? It is right on the cusp of happening. And Jesus is taking every opportunity, every moment, every chance he has to speak into these disciples and to train them on how to live. And they find themselves in the temple courts, okay? It's where everybody comes. You have to understand what the holiday is. It's Passover, okay? So everybody has come to the temple to celebrate this holiday called Passover. Now, if you don't know what Passover is, it's okay. In the Old Testament, there was a time when Moses pulled the people out from underneath Egyptian rule based on God calling him to do that. And there was this Passover moment where God had warned Pharaoh over and over and over, let the Israelite people go. Let them go, let them go. And they wouldn't do it. And finally God said, okay, here's what's going to happen. I'm going to start taking people out, right? People are going to start dying. That's the only thing that's going to get their attention. So if you're an Israelite, put blood over your door, and when the angel of death flies over, he'll see that blood and you won't die. And that happened, right? The next day the Israelites get up, there's calamity everywhere, there's death everywhere, but Israelites were spared. Now, because of that, Israelites, one of the things they do really well, Jewish people, is they remember. And they have these holidays, these moments in which they consider and they remember everything that's happened. So every year they would get together and they would celebrate the holiday of Passover. So all of them have come to the temple. They're all there to celebrate the fact that God spared them, okay? And we find Luke chapter 20, verse 45. And in the hearing of all the people, he said to his disciples, beware. That beware moment you can't miss, okay? In the Greek, that word is prosek, okay? And here's what you have to understand about it. It says, take caution, pay close attention to, let it scare you. And he is saying, look at those people, and you need to take a full account of everything that they are, okay? So he says this, he says, beware of the scribes who like to walk around in long robes and love greetings in the marketplaces and the best seats in the synagogues and the places of honor at feasts. They who devour widows' houses for a pretense make long prayers, but they will receive a greater condemnation. Now, you may be going, well, why are we talking about the Pharisees and the scribes? Because a lot of times when we see the Pharisees and the scribes, here's what we think. We think that they're like the church leaders. We think that they're like the priests. They're like the people who did it. But they were just you and me. They were just the you and me's that thought that they were something, right? They thought they had this church thing figured out, that their culture recognized them as the people who had it all figured out, right? Notice what Jesus doesn't do here, okay? When Jesus says, hey, beware, watch out, take close attention to, don't miss this, right? He doesn't say to them, hey, beware and watch out and pay close attention to the drug addicts. He doesn't say, hey, beware, watch out, pay close attention to those who are struggling in their integrity. Hey, watch out and pay close attention to and beware of those who are doing this and name anything else. Here's what he named out to the people who were standing with him that he wanted them to know more than anything. Don't be like the people who play this game called church, but when I look at them and I say, who do you say that I am? They really on the inside have no idea what I'm talking about. Jesus described these scribes and Pharisees, and here's how he described them in the book of Matthew. I want to show you this real quick. He says, woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you are like whitewashed tombs, which outwardly appear beautiful, but within are full of dead people's bones and all uncleanness. So back in the old days, if they wanted to clean these tombs, they'd put a whitewash on it, which would make it look nice and beautiful. But obviously on the inside of a tomb holds death and decay. And he was describing these scribes and Pharisees, these people that came to church, that played this church game, that had it all figured out by everybody's accounts. Here's what he called them. He called them whitewashed tombs. People on the outside that look great, but on the inside are dying and decaying. This week, my son is getting ready to study World War II in his classes, right? And he starts talking about Hitler, and he starts talking about all the things that Hitler was. He's like, Dad, did you know Hitler was in prison? And Dad, did you know that Hitler joined the German army? And Dad, did you know? I said, no, because I didn't study in school. And no, it's a joke, but kind of true. But anyway, he goes, Dad, did you know this? And he starts naming all these things off. And we started talking about what a crazy monster that he was. Now, as we look at the scribes and Pharisees, why did God care so much? Why did God see them as people who would never recognize him for who he is? I started thinking about Adolf Hitler, and I started to think about how we can become as Christians on maybe a much lower level, but incredibly similar. Listen to who the Pharisees were. Beware of the scribes and the Pharisees who like to walk around in long robes and love greetings in the marketplace. Greetings in the marketplace? Does it sound similar? Right? Who love to be adorned in things that matter, right? Let's keep looking at it. Who devour widows' houses for pretense. How many millions of people did he kill, right? When you look at it, here's what you notice, why God cares so much about who you are on the inside more than he cares about the outside. Because on a smaller level, these scribes and Pharisees were just like little Hitlers, running around completely devoid of who God was. Why? Because they were completely in love with who they were. Now, here's a question that we have to ask as Christians sometimes. Why do I do this whole Christianity thing anyway? Is it because I want people to look at me and go, hey, he's got it kind of figured out? Whitewashed tomb. Hey, you know what? When I go into church and I see them, man, I just feel like that's a really good family trying to live up to a motive. Man, I just love to get dressed up on Sunday mornings and go to church. It just makes me feel, what's that do for you? And when you look at all these things, what is it really creating? Am I in love with God, or am I in love with an idea? The scribes and the Pharisees were not in love with Jesus. They were in love with a concept. That concept always took people back to notice me, recognize me, praise me. And at the end of time, when you get to the very core of who they were, who did they really worship? Did they worship themselves, or did they worship God? I think if we really looked at the heart of the church, if we had this like heart x-ray machine, not on North Road necessarily, but on the church itself, what would we actually find when we say, who do you say that Jesus is? What would their hearts and their lives, their devotions, their treasures, their love say about them? I don't know. Gotta be honest, this one was a big one for me this week. Because I began to look at myself. And I began to ask some hard questions. Matt, who does your life say that God is? Because in some ways, my life very much says, you are the Christ. And then in some other ways, I'm still learning. I'm still getting there. I'm still growing. Jesus then gives them an example. I want to show you this. Luke chapter 21, verse 1. Jesus looked up and he saw the rich putting their gifts into the offering box. Now, you have to understand, this is Passover. They're going to walk into the inner courts. There's 3 inner courts of a temple, if you can kind of get your head around this, okay? And there was the I think it was like called the Court of Women or something like that. And it had like 12 offering boxes across the wall, okay? And they weren't like we have little magic bags, but they had like, I had to give Chris Gardner a hard time about that. Chris, never mind. Anyway, they had these offering boxes, and it kind of looked like a trumpet, right? And it would kind of start big, and it would kind of, it would start small, and it would kind of flare out like a trumpet. And there would be 12 of them across the wall. And people would come in with their offerings, and offerings were different in that day. They would sometimes bring wood in for the temple, or they'd bring incense, or they'd bring gold, or they might bring grain. I mean, there was a ton of different things they would come in and they would give, right? And God is talking to the disciples. He's like, here come the boys again. I mean, I can just see him like sitting with his 12. He's on his couch, right? He's got his popcorn with his 12 disciples around him. And here come the scribes and the Pharisees, and he's popping some popcorn in his mouth, and he goes, here you go, guys, great example. And here's what he says. Jesus looked up, and he saw the rich putting their gifts into the offering box, and he saw a poor widow who put in 2 small copper coins. Now, understand this copper coin concept, because, you can look at that and you can go, man, that 2 copper coins, that's a lot for somebody. Who knows what that was worth in those days? Those 2 copper coins were the least valuable denomination of money in that day and age. It was about the equivalent of a penny, okay? It was 1/64th, if you want to. It was 1/64th of the daily income of an Israelite person. This lady was like dirt floor poor. She had nothing, right? And he saw the poor widow put the 2 small copper coins in, and he said, truly I tell you, this poor widow has put in more than all of them. For they are all contributed out of their abundance. But she, out of her poverty, put in everything she had to live on. I wrote this down this week, and I want to read it to you real fast. These are questions I was asking myself. Based on my devotions, my treasures, and my goals, who do I say that Christ is? Let me say that again. I was asking these questions, and I think they're questions that we have to ask ourselves. Based on my devotions, my treasures, my goals, who do I say that Christ is? Go back to the Pharisees and the scribes for a second, okay? The people that Jesus was denouncing. What was their devotion? What did they care about? They cared about their robes. They cared about people noticing them. They cared about being recognized. They cared about just being whoever anybody would notice. What was their goals in life? Their goal was to be to be the most powerful one in the church. Their goal was to be the most recognized person in the church. Every goal that they had was right here. It was all consumed with number one. Where was their treasure at? Their treasure was in everything they could attain. What did it say they did to widows? It says they stole their homes because it was all about number one. And then he describes this widow. And truly I say to you, this poor widow has put in more than all of them. Now, how is that? Imagine Jesus. He's sitting there, right? He's got his popcorn. He's on the couch. He's with the disciples. He's like, now check out this little lady walking in. She's got a penny. She has no idea where her next meal's coming from. She has no idea how she's going to take care of tonight. She has no clue of what she's going to do, but watch her. And I don't think it's the fact that she gave everything she had, okay? If you stand here and you go, you know, I went to church today and Matt said I need to give everything I got to the church. I didn't say that, right? Here's what I want you to see. Her gift was a direct reflection of her hope in Christ. Notice this and don't miss this. Her gift was a direct reflection of her hope in Christ. Her treasure. It was a direct reflection of her treasure. What's her treasure? She gave everything she had to God. Why? Because he's her treasure, right? He is her everything. What's her goal in life? Her goal is to be like Jesus. So what does she do because her goal is to be like Jesus? She gives everything to him. Think about that. Where's her hope? Her hope's in Jesus. And so you know what? She doesn't even care about how she's going to figure out tomorrow. She cares about one thing. Have I honored God with my entire life? Now, does God want everything? No, I don't think so. But I think, God wants everything of our life, but does God want all our money is what I'm trying to say. No, I don't think so. But here's what she said in her devotion to God. Her, who do you say that I am answer was so strong to God. Here's what she basically said. God, everything that exists in my being, I don't want it more than you. I want you. I don't own anything you can't have, God. I don't have anything that you don't give, God. And so, God, if it's going to happen, I am so in love with you. I'm so devoted to you. I'm so convinced that you are my Father, that there is nothing that I have that I would not give to you. You can have the rest of it. I don't care. Because here's what she realized. She realized that her father, who she was completely in love with and completely devoted to and completely in the hope of her situation was completely in the hands of him. Here's what she realized, that if she gave it all away, he would take care of it. Isn't that the hardest thing for us to do sometimes? Is to give God something that's so huge that we go, but God, if I give you this, I have to trust that you're just going to take care of me. That's hard. It's birthday week at my house. I got a little boy turning 14 years old. And we do the whole birthday celebration that lasts forever. You guys know that one, where you start out at one grandparent's house on Friday. Sunday, you have the next grandparent's house. Tuesday's his birthday. Next Saturday's his birthday party, you know. And it's just like Lollapalooza birthday, you know. And you're like, oh, gosh, it's a lot. And you're starting, you know, as a parent, you know how this is. You're going, okay, so how do we get all this figured out? How do we work the schedules? And you plan way ahead. At least, you know, I try to plan way ahead. I always find myself right up to the edge, but I always try to plan way ahead. And here's why I try to plan way ahead. And probably the same reason you do, right? Because I want one statement made to my 14-year-old when he has his birthday on Tuesday. Nothing matters more to me right now than you. I'm devoted to being your father. I'm devoted to giving you everything that I have because I love you more than life. That's what that statement means, right? Now, have you ever been in those situations, right, where maybe, or maybe you've experienced a situation where maybe it was forgotten? You know, you went through a day and your birthday was just forgotten, right? And it kind of makes you go, well, did you forget? I mean, do you care, right? I don't ever want my son to wonder that. I don't ever want my son to sit on his bed at the end of his birthday and go, He forgot me. Why? Because I'm devoted to him. Because I love him. Because I give my life for him. Because I wake up in the morning hoping he has the greatest day. The same things I want from my Father in heaven. I love him. I love my Father in heaven. I want to give him everything that I got on my inside. I want my life to completely match the statement, you are the Christ. You are the Son of God. I found this in the parking lot. If I can find it again. Where'd you go? There it is. I'm just one rock, right? He said, hey, Peter, you are a rock, and on this rock I will build my church, right? Every single one of us, whether we realize it or not, we are a rock, okay? Did you know that? You're a rock. I had a lot of people tell me my head was like a rock when I was a kid, but you are a rock. And here's the reality of this rock, right? Completely devoted to God, with all of my hope, stacked with all of yours, man, God can do amazing things, right? But when I take my rock and I say, you know what? I think I'm going to build my kingdom. And I put it in my pocket. It accomplishes nothing. You know, we're at a really crucial moment in the life of our church. Let's just be honest. Today is that day. If you don't know that, first of all, let me say this. If you're a visitor with us this morning, disregard what I'm going to say here in the next couple minutes. This isn't expected of you. But for those of us that are family, that are church members, right, that have been here for a very, very long time, today is a big day for us. April 14th, we are going to close on our church. We're going to close on the sale of our church. We're going to buy it. May 1st, we're going to start construction to remodel it so that we can fit more people in this place, so we can do what God's called us to do, right? So we can be that small pebble stacked on one another that does this huge thing. And here's the request that I think we need to ask right now. In your seat, under your butt, underneath your chair, wherever you put it, is a commitment card, right? And basically, here's what it says. It says that over the next 2 years, as a church, we are going to do what's called a One Fund movement. And we're going to ask everybody in this room that is a member and a diehard part of this church to be a part of this. We're going to ask you, if you haven't already been asked, you're being asked now, we're asking you to consider what you could do over 2 years. What could be your contribution to what God is doing here? Some of you, we did advanced commitment a couple weeks ago, and we had like 65 people that filled one of these out already. Here's the deal for you. If you've already filled this out here in a second, I just want you to write on it, already filled out. Okay, can you do that? Can you just write on it? If you've already filled this out, just write already filled out. But here's what I want for the rest of us that didn't have a chance to be there. I think this right here is an awesome opportunity to live out that right there. It just kind of happens that they kind of join together, you know, as we look at the widow's mite and you look at what we got to accomplish today. But it's a perfect joining of the two, because here's what God is saying. Who do you say that I am? Well, you're God. Who do your actions say that I am? Who does your hope say that I am? Who does your loyalty say that I am? Who does your generosity say that I am? I would hope that every single one of us in this room, knowing that Jesus' birth, or Jesus' death and resurrection is 3 weeks away, that we, like a father waiting for the momentum of the preparation of his son's birthday, we would sit here and we'd go, and I want to make this the greatest Easter he's ever had. And as a church, we would step up. And we would all do our part like the little widow. Now here's the cool thing about that. Let me just say this real fast, and then I'm going to be done. This week, I was in a meeting with a guy who was sitting down with me, and he was talking about committing to this whole thing. And he's like, you know, he told me a number, and, you know, he doesn't have a lot. He's like, you know, I really want to do that. I go, man, you can do it. And I could see in his eyes just this fear, but this determination. And then he goes, but it's not very much. You think it even matters? And here's what I said to him. It matters to God. You may be sitting in your chair and go, man, I ain't got nothing to give God. Come on, I got like 10 cents in the bank. That lady had 10 cents in the bank. But here's what he wants more. He doesn't want your money. God could go out tomorrow and he could give us more money than we ever knew it. He could just have a guy show up and go, hey, I was supposed to bring $10 million to this church. He can do that. I've seen him do it, right? Not 10 million, but I've seen him do stuff like that. What he wants is his people to say, I'm so in love with you. I'm so devoted to you. My hope is so in you. Let me show you. So here's God, sitting on a couch, eating his popcorn, looking into your heart, and he's asking the question, who do you say that I am? How devoted to me are you? Who's your hope? And then he's looking for our answer. I want you to do me a favor. If you're sitting with your spouse, I just want you to sit and maybe look at him and go, hey, what do we need to do? Maybe you need to do something. Maybe you need to do nothing. I don't know. I'm not here to be that person. This is between you and God. I'm going to show you a video of some people in our church who've kind of wrestled with this. And I want you to kind of hear what they have to say. And then the band's going to come up and play. And then we're going to have an opportunity to give. And I just want to challenge you. Take this thing out of it, because we're going to spend the next 3 weeks. If Jesus looked in your heart and he said, who do you say that I am? What would your actions say? What would your response be? Watch this video.
God has always been faithful, always, even through the highs and the lows and just all the struggles of life. He's been right there beside me. You know, we know we can't outgive God. His purposes can be accomplished. His will be done. But it's just such a blessing to me. It's like an opportunity. It's not like a chore. You know, it's like I get to be a part of this, not I have to be a part of this.
All throughout the New Testament, Jesus really calls us to not just do things externally, but really take things to our heart and to have a change in our heart so that from that we are truly serving God in some way. And so when we're giving, it shouldn't just be something so that other people see it or just a little bit. It should be enough that we're sacrificing to give to what God has called us to.
If He calls you to do something and you step out in faith and do it, even if it doesn't make sense, even if it seems way beyond your ability, He will never let you sink. I've learned that you cannot outgive God. And it never ceases to amaze me that the number that the Lord puts on my heart usually takes faith, because it's not an easy amount. It doesn't take faith to give if it's easy. It takes faith to give if it stretches you and if it's hard.
We view it as tools that God has put in our hand to enable us to get the job done, and it's tools that God is allowing us to put in other people's hands to get what they need to done.
When it comes to helping out your church, you're really building upon that relationship with God. And although God is always there watching over us, He always loves us, He's always there for us to call on. And from the church's standpoint, we're just giving the Lord back what He's given us to use for a limited time.
We've had some trials in our life with job situations. It's hard to be, in your mind, financially faithful to your church when you've always got that hanging over you. Where's the money going to come from? But I've learned that God will take care of you no matter what. So if you trust in the Lord, He is going to take care of you.
In the hard times, the reason it's so important to be generous is because generosity isn't just to your fellow man and to your church, it's also to God. And you just know God's got a plan for you, and it's the best plan there is.
It's important to have a giving heart even when times are hard, because I think that's what really grows you. And gets you closer to God. I think those are the times where you really have to trust. No matter what, He's always going to take care of things, even when things seem tight. We just obey when we feel like we're called to give financially or with our time, and He always blesses us back. I've seen it happen over and over again, and it always works out and God takes care of us. But sometimes my flesh gets scared and I get nervous and I talk about this isn't going to work this time, and it always works in the end. It's a lot easier when I just trust.
I definitely think that it is worth every penny to invest into growing the building, because this new campaign is just going to allow us to reach so many different lives, and there's so many families that need God and don't know God, and that could just, their lives could completely change from this, and that's our responsibility as church members. We're supposed to be the body and to help grow and to be Jesus' hands and feet and reach as many people as we can.
All of us together can make a huge impact in our community. One or two of us can do a little, but as a group, we can really make an impact for God in our community.
We're already known in the community as a giving church, and one that supports families and children and mothers. And I think that's our legacy. It's a place of comfort and of giving and of support.
So here's what I would like to do as a church, and I just want to just be clear, okay? What we are trying to accomplish is this, and maybe you're new to this, maybe you're just coming to church, just hear it today. You don't have to be a part of this, I'm telling you. I don't want you to feel like you came to this church and all they do is ask for your money. That's not, you just happen to come on an interesting day. But let me say this, okay? For the rest of us that are members, here's what we're trying to accomplish. Our goal is to reach $2 million, right? We are incredibly on our way there. I'll tell you more about that here in a couple weeks, but we are not there yet. And what we're trying to get is we're trying to get our church to commit in such a way that we would, over the next 2 years, commit more than we tithe, right? More than we already give, so that we can reach this goal and build this building and start reaching people in this community. I got to tell you some cool stuff. This week alone, I got to minister to somebody who lost their mom. We got to minister to a family that just started foster care. I got to share my story with people who are thinking about foster care. I got to watch people who are wanting to give their life to Jesus. And this is just 1 week. North Road is on this movement that is crazy huge. I told somebody the other day, I know the moment that we open the doors of that auditorium, you're going to watch people that come from all around because God is drawing their hearts. But here's what it takes. It takes little rocks who look into the eyes of Jesus when he says, "Who do you say that I am?" And you say, "You're my hope. You're my treasure. You're everything." We're going to sing a worship song. And what I'd like you to do is, if you filled out your card, or maybe you like I said, you were here already, I want this to be in a moment where God kind of sits on the couch and eats his popcorn and kind of watches North Road, right? And he looks at us and he says, "Who do you say that I am?" I would like in this first week to give him that first glimpse of who we are. There's a bucket here. Grab your spouse by the hand. Somewhere during the worship song, just come up and give God your devotion. You're not to give this like a Pharisee. Man, I challenge you, if you have to feel like you have to come up here because you're forced, or you feel like you want to come up here because you want everybody to know that you're giving, don't come for that reason. Come because God is looking at your heart and he's saying, "Who do you say that I am?" And like the widow, you just want to go, "God, you're everything. I trust you with everything I got." Here you go. If you've already filled one of these out, I want you to bring one up. And let me tell you why. Because I think our church needs to know that there's a lot of rocks that are doing a lot of things in the name of Jesus. So as he sings, when you're ready, drop yours in the bucket. Let's stand. Let's sing.
Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, ways are good, all your ways are sure. I will trust in you alone, higher than my sight, high above my life. I will trust in you alone. Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. Where you move, I'll move. I will follow you. Who you love, I'll love. How you serve, I'll serve. If this life I lose, I will follow you. Yeah, I will follow you. Yeah. Lord, unto the world, Lord, unto my life, I will live for you alone. You're the one I seek, knowing I will find all I need in you alone, in you alone. Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. Where you move, I'll move. I will follow you. Who you love, I'll love. How you serve, I'll serve. If this life I lose, I will follow you. Yeah, I will follow you. Yeah. In you there's life everlasting. In you there's freedom for my soul. In you there's joy, unending joy. I will follow. Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. Where you move, I'll move. I will follow you. Who you love, I'll love. How you serve, I'll serve. If this life I lose, I will follow. Where you go, I'll go. Where you stay, I'll stay. Where you move, I'll move. I will follow. Who you love, I'll love. Now you stand, I'll stand. If this life I lose, I will follow you. I will follow you. Yeah, I will follow you. I will follow you. Yeah. When I was first in ministry, I had this guy named Harold Finch, who was a huge minister in my life. Is this thing on? Is it working? Okay, there we go. Just didn't sound like it was. Anyway, I had this buddy of mine named Harold Finch. He was this 70-year-old guy. I don't know how old he is today, probably 87, 88 years old. But he was a 70-year-old guy at the time, and he had made millions of dollars. He was this genius. He worked at NASA, and he created this thing called the barbecue roll, which is like how the space shuttle rotates to take heat all over its shield on the way from reentry, so that it didn't burn up. It would rotate and kind of take the heat in, and he created that. I mean, genius of a guy. As soon as he got out of NASA, he went and he created 2 Fortune 500 companies, and then, well, Fortune 100 companies. And then he went and became the president of one of the fastest growing community colleges in America. And he got done about to 60 years old, and he realized he had all this wisdom. And so he started going overseas, this is no lie, and he spent his entire fortune telling people about Jesus. That's crazy, right? We look at that and we go, that's nuts. No, it's not. It's hope. It's devotion. It's love. When Christ looks at Harold Finch and he goes, who do you say that I am? He eats the popcorn. He knows the answer. And I think he knows the answer about North Road.
Man, as you go this week, this is not just a week so that you'll give a card. This is the beginning of us going deeper together. I think we have to ask a very hard question of ourselves. By the way I look, by the way I live my life, by the way I'm generous, by the way I serve, by my excitement about you, God, who do I say you are? We got to answer that question. Man, as you go, let that sink to the bottom of your heart this week. Have an awesome week. See you next one in North Road.